And news just out, Stellantis is laying off almost 2,500 factory workers from an assembly plant outside of Detroit.
In a surprising turn of events, automotive giant Stellantis may be looking to sell some of its most iconic US brands. This news has sent ripples through the auto industry, with major players and industry insiders speculating about who might end up owning some of America's most storied car brands. The list includes Chrysler and Dodge, names that have defined American roads for decades. If these brands are sold, it could mark the end of an era, raising big questions about the future of these American icons. What's driving Stellantis toward this decision? Why are companies like Hyundai rumored to be interested in brands that have historically represented American culture and innovation? Today we'll unpack the background of Stellantis' current situation, setting the stage for the potential outcomes of this historic move. Let's start by looking at how Stellantis came to this critical moment. Stellantis' formation and strategic goals. To understand the motivations behind this possible sale, we need to look at the origins of Stellantis. Formed in 2021 from a merger between Fiat Chrysler Automobiles and PSA Group, Stellantis quickly became one of the world's largest automakers. The merger united a diverse portfolio of 14 brands, including Jeep, Ram, Peugeot, Alfa Romeo, and of course Chrysler and Dodge. Stellantis was created with ambitious goals to boost profitability, enhance global market competitiveness, and lead the charge into the electric vehicle revolution. But managing such a wide array of brands, especially in today's rapidly changing auto market, has proven challenging. While Stellantis has had successes with some brands, it's faced difficulties balancing resources across its lineup, with certain brands left struggling to stay relevant. With an extensive global presence, Stellantis has focused much of its energy on its European brands and expanding its EV strategy. This has left some of its US-based brands like Chrysler and Dodge on the back burner, raising questions about their long-term place within Stellantis' global strategy. Financial pressures and declining US sales. In recent years, Stellantis has faced mounting financial pressures, especially in the US market. Reports indicate that vehicle shipments have dropped substantially, with a 20% decrease in just the third quarter of 2024 compared to the previous year. The shift toward electric vehicles and changing consumer preferences have led Stellantis to reassess its brand portfolio, especially in markets where certain brands have struggled to keep pace. The current economic landscape has only added to these challenges, with rising production costs, evolving consumer expectations, and a push for stricter emission standards. Stellantis is under pressure to maximize profitability and streamline operations. The company's focus has increasingly turned to its most profitable and globally competitive brands, meaning that underperforming or resource-intensive brands may be considered for divestiture. This shift in focus has led to internal discussions about possibly selling off some of Stellantis' US brands. Chrysler and Dodge, despite their iconic status, may not align with Stellantis' long-term goals, especially as the company invests heavily in the EV space, a transition that these brands have been slower to embrace. Why Chrysler and Dodge are in the spotlight? Chrysler and Dodge have long histories, deeply rooted in American automotive culture. Founded in the early 20th century, these brands have delivered groundbreaking models that became symbols of American engineering and design. Chrysler, known for its innovation and family-oriented vehicles, has seen its lineup shrink to a fraction of what it once was. Today, it's primarily known for the Chrysler Pacifica minivan, one of the few models left under its name. Dodge, meanwhile, has a loyal following of performance enthusiasts, with its lineup dominated by the muscle-bound Challenger and Charger. But as the industry shifts toward electric mobility and eco-friendly options, Dodge's high-performance, gasoline-driven models have faced challenges in adapting to this new era. Both brands' limited offerings and the resources required to revitalize them have put Chrysler and Dodge under Stellantis' microscope. From Stellantis' perspective, offloading these brands could free up resources for its more globally competitive and profitable lines, like Jeep and Peugeot. The potential sale could allow Stellantis to redirect its focus toward its EV ambitions and international market expansion. Yet, the prospect of Chrysler and Dodge being sold has raised eyebrows and sparked debate. Could these iconic brands find new life under a different owner, or are they destined to be phased out if they can't adapt to today's automotive landscape? The questions surrounding these brands set up a complex and intriguing story, one that's only just beginning to unfold. Frank B. Rhodes Jr.'s proposal to buy Chrysler. One of the most surprising developments in this unfolding story is the interest shown by Frank B. Rhodes Jr., the great-grandson of Chrysler's founder, Walter Chrysler. Rhodes' proposal to buy Chrysler back isn't just about dollars and cents. It's about legacy, pride, and preserving the American spirit behind this iconic brand. Rhodes has made a public case for bringing Chrysler back under American ownership, stating that he has investors lined up to make this vision a reality. Rhodes' plan taps into the emotions of those who view Chrysler as a symbol of American ingenuity. His proposal suggests that Chrysler could be revived by focusing on the qualities that once made it great, blending heritage with modern innovation. He's hinted at bringing back classic designs and modernizing them for a new generation. For Chrysler fans, the idea of seeing the brand once again in the hands of the Chrysler family is more than a business proposition. It's a chance to restore the brand's identity and appeal. But could Rhodes realistically pull off a turnaround for Chrysler? While the emotional appeal is strong, reviving a brand in today's highly competitive market would require substantial financial and strategic resources. Rhodes' proposal has drawn attention and support, but whether it's enough to sway Stellantis remains an open question. Hyundai's Interest, an unexpected move. While Rhodes' proposal is rooted in legacy, Hyundai's rumored interest in Stellantis' US brands presents a more strategic, business-minded approach. Hyundai, a South Korean automotive giant, has been aggressively expanding its global footprint, and it's particularly focused on making a mark in the US market. Acquiring Chrysler or Dodge could provide Hyundai with immediate access to an established customer base, a network of dealerships, and valuable manufacturing assets within the US. For Hyundai, the potential acquisition could bolster its luxury brand, Genesis, by accessing Chrysler's dealership network and industry connections. Additionally, Chrysler and Dodge's extensive network could support Hyundai's ambition to establish Genesis as a luxury staple in North America, similar to how Toyota uses Lexus. Such a move would give Hyundai a stronger foothold in North America without needing to build infrastructure from the ground up. Hyundai's interest might seem surprising to some, but it's grounded in a calculated plan to grow its presence and gain greater influence in the American market. If Hyundai were to acquire Chrysler or Dodge, it could rapidly expand its influence and appeal to a wider range of US consumers. But there are challenges too, as Hyundai would have to navigate the complexities of brand identity and loyalty tied to these iconic American names. The dealership factor, why Hyundai might benefit. One of the key factors driving Hyundai's interest is Chrysler and Dodge's extensive dealership networks across the United States. Establishing a dealership network can be a daunting task for any automaker, and Hyundai knows that acquiring an established network could give it a strategic advantage. As it stands, Hyundai has struggled to establish standalone dealerships for its luxury Genesis brand. Chrysler and Dodge's infrastructure could offer a ready-made solution, allowing Hyundai to accelerate Genesis's rollout and reach more customers. Imagine this scenario. Hyundai acquires Chrysler's dealerships and integrates Genesis into these locations, transforming them into luxury auto showrooms overnight. This would position Hyundai to compete directly with American and European luxury brands without the significant expense and time it would take to build a network from scratch. In addition, Chrysler and Dodge dealerships often have deeply rooted relationships with customers, and Hyundai could leverage these ties to build brand loyalty. This potential acquisition, however, wouldn't be without its challenges. Hyundai would need to ensure that Genesis's brand message and reputation align with the established identities of Chrysler and Dodge dealerships. Balancing these brand identities in a way that resonates with both traditional Chrysler and Dodge fans and new Genesis customers would be critical to Hyundai's success. Market and consumer reactions to possible sale. The potential sale of Chrysler and Dodge has stirred up significant reactions within the industry and among consumers. Many Americans see these brands as symbols of their country's automotive heritage, and the idea of them potentially going to a foreign company has led to mixed emotions. On one hand, the prospect of seeing these brands thrive under new ownership offers hope for a revival. On the other, some fans worry that a foreign owner may not fully appreciate the cultural importance of Chrysler and Dodge. Market analysts have weighed in as well, noting that Hyundai's interest could signal a shift in global automotive dynamics, with more non-American companies gaining a foothold in the US market. Hyundai's focus on electric and luxury vehicles aligns well with industry trends, potentially giving these iconic brands a much-needed modernization. However, for traditionalists, the thought of Chrysler and Dodge under South Korean ownership could be hard to accept. Meanwhile, Frank B. Rhodes Jr.'s bid has struck a chord with consumers who are eager to see Chrysler remain American-owned. His vision of revitalizing Chrysler as a distinctly American brand has gained traction, particularly among those who value Chrysler's legacy. Enthusiasts and longtime customers have voiced support for the idea of keeping the brand at home, hoping that Rhodes' proposal might help Chrysler return to its roots. The potential sale is shaping up to be more than just a business transaction. It's becoming a question of identity, loyalty, and the future of American automotive culture. The responses from both the market and consumers illustrate the high stakes involved, as the fate of these brands could influence more than just Stellantis' bottom line. It could reshape the legacy of Chrysler and Dodge forever. As Stellantis considers selling its US brands, it's crucial to understand the global strategy driving this decision. Stellantis, with its broad portfolio spanning 14 brands across multiple continents, faces the challenge of balancing global priorities. While its American brands like Chrysler and Dodge have historical significance, Stellantis' recent focus has been on expanding its European presence and positioning itself as a leader in electric vehicles, EVs. This global strategy is shaping Stellantis' decision to potentially divest its US brands, allowing the company to concentrate on markets where it holds stronger competitive advantages. As Stellantis invests heavily in EV innovation, brands with fewer models and limited market growth potential, like Chrysler and Dodge, may seem less essential. This is especially relevant as Stellantis positions itself to compete with European EV leaders, pushing its resources toward brands like Peugeot, Citroën, and Alfa Romeo. If Stellantis proceeds with a sale, it's not just about offloading underperforming assets. It's a strategic choice to free up resources for its larger goals. The sale would enable Stellantis to reinforce its presence in Europe and focus on high-growth markets, potentially reshaping the company's identity and global footprint. Hyundai's geopolitical strategy and American expansion, Hyundai's interest in Stellantis' US brands represents more than just an acquisition. It's a calculated move to expand its influence in North America. Over the past few years, Hyundai has established itself as a leading player in the automotive industry, especially in electric and luxury vehicles. The acquisition of Chrysler and Dodge would allow Hyundai to broaden its reach in the US, gaining access to valuable resources, dealerships, and market credibility. For Hyundai, owning American brands like Chrysler and Dodge would serve as a major geopolitical advantage. With an established base in the US, Hyundai could better navigate trade policies, avoid tariffs, and further integrate into the American economy. This acquisition would solidify Hyundai's presence in North America, positioning it as a competitor to established American brands and bolstering its standing on the world stage. This strategic move aligns with Hyundai's ambition to capture a larger share of the US luxury market through Genesis, as well as its commitment to EV innovation. By acquiring these brands, Hyundai could appeal to a wider demographic, capturing both traditional American car enthusiasts and eco-conscious consumers looking for high-quality electric options. Implications for American manufacturing and jobs. If Stellantis does sell Chrysler and Dodge to a foreign company like Hyundai, the implications for American manufacturing could be significant. Chrysler and Dodge both have deep roots in the US, with strong ties to manufacturing plants and a workforce that includes thousands of American employees. For years, these brands have provided jobs and supported local economies, especially in Michigan, where their legacy is part of the region's identity. A sale to Hyundai could bring about shifts in manufacturing priorities, potentially affecting American jobs and labor agreements. While Hyundai would likely seek to maintain existing production facilities to avoid backlash and demonstrate commitment to US jobs, the long-term impact remains uncertain. Hyundai would need to navigate labor unions, work with local governments, and address concerns about the future of American-made vehicles. For the American workforce, this transition raises important questions. Will jobs remain secure? Will manufacturing standards align with Hyundai's goals? The potential for brand ownership shifting overseas could spark debates about economic nationalism, as many worry that foreign ownership might weaken the legacy of these iconic brands and disrupt the communities they support. Cultural and emotional impact on American consumers. Beyond business implications, the potential sale of Chrysler and Dodge carries a deep cultural and emotional impact for American consumers. These brands are more than just cars. They're symbols of American innovation and grit, woven into the fabric of US history. For many, the thought of Chrysler or Dodge moving to foreign ownership raises questions about losing a piece of American identity. Chrysler and Dodge represent eras in American history when the automobile industry was a central part of the nation's pride and growth. From the classic muscle cars that defined Dodge to the family-friendly designs that Chrysler pioneered, these brands have a loyal fan base that sees them as distinctly American. The idea of a foreign entity taking over these beloved brands could be unsettling for consumers who value Made in America labels and the cultural significance these brands hold. This sale also touches on broader themes of globalization and identity. For American consumers, it may feel like another chapter in the shift of US manufacturing power overseas. And yet, some may see this as an opportunity for Chrysler and Dodge to survive and evolve, potentially reaching new heights under different management. Regardless, this potential sale is as much a cultural story as it is a business decision, challenging consumers to consider what these brands mean to them in a globalized world. As we enter the final stretch of this saga, let's explore the possible outcomes if Stellantis follows through with selling its US brands. The fate of Chrysler and Dodge could take several directions, each with unique implications for the brands, their employees, and their customers. If Hyundai or another buyer successfully acquires one or both brands, we could witness a rapid transformation in their product lines, marketing approaches, and target demographics. These possible futures offer a glimpse of what might happen if these brands are sold, yet each path carries uncertainties. Will Chrysler and Dodge thrive under foreign ownership, or will their American identities fade? These questions underscore the weight of Stellantis' decision, and whatever direction they choose, the outcome is likely to reshape the legacy of these iconic brands. Challenges of transition and brand identity. Transitioning ownership of legacy brands like Chrysler and Dodge presents unique challenges, particularly in preserving their identity and loyal consumer base. If Hyundai or any foreign buyer acquires these brands, it will need to carefully manage the transition to ensure that existing customers continue to feel connected to their beloved vehicles. A critical question for Hyundai or any other buyer is how to balance innovation with heritage. Consumers are attached to the familiar characteristics that define Chrysler and Dodge. From Dodge's signature muscle car look to Chrysler's family-oriented minivan offerings. Striking this balance between introducing new features and retaining the brand's traditional feel will be key to winning over both current and new customers. Stellantis' future in the US market. If Stellantis moves forward with the sale, it will fundamentally alter its presence in the US market. Chrysler and Dodge have historically been central to Stellantis' American identity, but if they are sold, Stellantis' focus may shift more heavily toward its remaining US-based brands, particularly Jeep and Ram. These two brands are among Stellantis' most successful, known for their rugged appeal and strong consumer loyalty. In a Chrysler-free lineup, Jeep and Ram would likely become Stellantis' primary focus in the United States, and the company could direct more resources toward expanding their EV offerings and competitive models. Jeep, with its iconic SUV and off-road image, is already well-positioned for the next generation of electric vehicles, while Ram could benefit from the increasing popularity of electric trucks. Yet losing Chrysler and Dodge would mean losing part of its American legacy. Stellantis would need to reinvent its US identity and adapt to a more streamlined portfolio, but the departure of Chrysler and Dodge would undoubtedly mark the end of an era in Stellantis' American history.